Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. Take it from the Ironwoman. We only have special guests, and today we go to Elissa Hecker. She is a referral from Malia, so thank you so much for connecting us. When I look at Elissa's picture, it says, I'm a New Yorker for dance. It looks very interesting, but she's actually a lawyer. So Elissa, welcome first of all, but give us an intro. Who are you, what do you do, and what is it all about that dance?
Thank you, Suzanne. It's such a pleasure to be here. I am a lawyer, as you said. I act as general counsel to small businesses, solopreneurs, and entrepreneurs, and really try to make sure that people understand that barrier that people feel towards hiring a lawyer shouldn't exist. If you're a small business, a solopreneur, or an entrepreneur, that we're there to be your trusted advisor and help you grow, make money, and make relationships. I also have a large entertainment arts and book publishing practice where I represent folks in the performing arts, visual arts, authors, illustrators, podcasts, the whole entertainment and arts field. And the story behind the I'm New Yorker for dance, I am a lifelong dancer and choreographer. Knowing that that was not going to be my job, my full career, I've managed to stay in the dance world. I've been chair of the board of directors of an organization called Dance NYC for almost 15 years. It's an incredible opportunity to remain in the field. We advocate, provide resources, we do convenings. I still feel like that 12-year-old girl outside the stage door with my playbill every time I do something in this world. So it keeps me fresh and it brings me joy.
I like that combination of dance and lawyer. It's kind of like at the end of both spectrums. And also what you said, that people in the entertainment business are not afraid to reach out to you, because as a solo entrepreneurs, we're like, lawyers, they tell us what not to do or what mistakes we make. We're afraid to talk to you. How can people get to know you and not be afraid to talk to you?
I'm really glad you asked that question. Before I went out on my own over 20 years ago now, I've actually been a solopreneur on my own for that long. I was in-house counsel at a music agency. So I knew from the very beginning, I had the mindset of not to tell you can't do something, because the position of general counsel is to say, here's what you want. How do we get you there? With all of the built-in protections and everything, not to say these are the risks, don't do it. It's, yes, I understand. How can we get you there most effectively? And also because solopreneurs and entrepreneurs and small businesses are very nervous about, I have to pay a $20,000 retainer, or if I pick up the phone. That's not how it works. When you have a small business attorney, it is, again, like your trusted advisor. I talk to my clients about what's happening. They're taking care of their parents. They have to drop their kids off from school. We're talking in the car. We have business strategy questions. You're not on the clock. When I do legal work, I bill for that. And it's a much smaller rate, because these are small companies. We're not Fortune 500 companies. My goal really is, as I said earlier, to help them make money and really grow relationships and maintain relationships. That's a big part of what I do. It's not a transactional relationship. It's a long-term relationship. So my goal is to be with you as long as you have your business, so that we can make it happen as well as possible. And also, you don't need a lawyer every minute of the day. It's just good to have someone you could call if you have a question.
And I think it's that fear that the people don't reach out to you.
Sometimes when I get you after something's happened, it's already too late or it's a problem. I love having people come in as they're setting up their companies or I could set up their company or in the earlier stages, because then we could put together all the contracts, all the legal infrastructure. It's your legal and business affairs basically set up so that you're free to go do what it is that you do best and know that you have those legal protections around you. You've got your master services agreement, for example. What happens if a client doesn't pay you? It's in the contract. What if there's scope creep? It's in the contract. Like everything that could possibly happen, we have you covered.
The listeners have to really listen up and be not afraid to reach out to you. What are the problems you see that when people come to you? Obviously, we have a lot of coaches and authors that are always listening to the episodes.
Also a very good question. There are a few things. Initially, especially for coaches and consultants, you're creating a huge amount of content that is unique to you. So it's materials. It could be podcasts. It could be what you put on your website. It could be packages. It could be your outlines for how you run your workshops. These are all protectable intellectual property. And I work with a lot of my clients because many of them don't realize that they can be protected. So we work with copyright. We work on trademark. I have a lot of clients who are building brands and who either have tried to file for trademark protection on their own or didn't have a good attorney help them. That's a real complicated process. I would recommend having a trademark attorney help them, because if you build your brand around something and somebody else already has it, you have to start all over again, which is a lot of time and money. You also want to protect what you've created, all of your materials. You want to make sure that you have in your agreements, not only when do I get paid, what do I do, what are the deliverables, but this is my information. Perhaps I'm offering you a license to use it for certain things, but you can't go out and use it on your own as if it's yours. Various different protections in place. Often coaches come to me and they have a deliverable sheet or a term sheet, and they think that that's their contract, but there's no infrastructure around that protects them. It's just, these are the services. There may or may not be a date. What happens if someone has to terminate? What happens if there's a delay? What happens if you have expenses and they don't pay? Like, all of that stuff is not in there. I like to make sure that there's a really good, what I call the contracts are the roadmaps to the relationships, and it's a meeting of the minds. So you have the client and you have the coach completely agreeing to everything so that anything comes up down the line, all they have to do is look at the agreement. They're like, oh, okay, we've covered that. And if we want to add anything, we can do that.
And it's not the small print that we deceive in a way.
Not the small prints. It's not like a lease, which is like 60 pages of tiny print. And I like to draft in plain English. And one of the things that I always say, because people are intimidated by contracts, and a lot of coaches are saying, well, my clients will never sign that. It's a legal document. Yes. And if we go to the improv world, I say, this is for the benefit of both you and your client. And I walk through the coach and say, you need to understand everything that's in here and why, so that you can explain to the client how the client's also protected and how this really does establish a relationship. Especially, I would say not especially, but if you've never worked together, you're kind of dating, you don't know how you're going to be working together. And it's good to have these guardrails in there. If you're working with someone like friends or family very well, it's also good to have these guardrails in there to make sure that you're keeping business as business and personal, so that the lines don't cross.
That's so important. Wow. I'm learning so much. And we think those contracts are like documents. Nobody reads them, but it is important to have them in place.
Very important. And also, once you have a master services agreement, for example, for a coach, you can then use this. You don't have to call your attorney every time you have a new client. You're able to use that as a template, and you just update certain things each time for the new client or to continue a relationship with an existing client. So a lot of the concern about, oh my God, I have to pay a lawyer so much money. So much of that is upfront, where your agreements are drafted or your trademarks are acquired or your copyrights are registered or your website policies are written. And then imagine within a year down the line, you're making tons of money. You have a ton of clients and you don't have to worry about having any more drafting or hiring a lawyer for anything really big.
Opening up so many more doors when everything is set in place. And obviously, as a coach, we also coach entrepreneurs. And it's important that us as coaches, we have the knowledge so we can give it to others and then obviously refer them to you because you're the expert in this field.
Yeah. And it also, as a coach, if you come in, especially some coaches are coaching individuals. Some coaches like to go into larger or middle-sized companies, and it looks very professional. You're not going with a term sheet. You're going in with an actual master services agreement. And even if you're just one person, it looks bigger and it looks, you've got this button down. If you have a speaking engagement or you're getting involved with a big company and they give you their contracts, what to look for, what you want to make sure is in there and what you don't want in there. because you have your own contract and that represents your ideas and what best protects you.
And when you say what you don't want in the contract, you can negotiate what should be in the contract. If you work with
Everything is negotiable. Everything. It depends on the degree, but everything is negotiable. My advice, if there's nothing else that's a takeaway from today, never sign a contract without trying to negotiate at least one major point.
Oh, wow.
Never be afraid to ask. The worst they could do is say no. Usually they say yes, or let's create a problem solve.
Oh, okay. We're so glad to have you. Is there anything we have to look out in 2025? What tips do you have?
Well, there's 2024 to 2025. If you have established an LLC or a corporation, there's a federal filing that you have to do or you can get fined. I would say, and that's something you could see on my website at ehecker.com. It's for small businesses. Just the government wants to make sure that you're not laundering money for terrorists. That was something they set up. And you can be fined like $600 a day if you don't sign up. So it's important. In terms of everything else, we're going to have a new administration. So there's a lot up in the air in terms of what's going to happen with laws. In terms of day-to-day business, it's really business as usual. There are always opportunities. There's always way to meet new people, have new collaborations, and find joy in what you do. I can't think of any specific issues because it really depends on the individual coaches or the businesses. But fashion's going to be hit somewhat hard depending on what happens with tariffs.
We'll be ready. And if people have questions, they can come to you. Let's talk a little bit about dance. Before we recorded, you said it's about the music, it's about the melody. When you work in your law firm, tell us a little more about that combination.
Sure. Thank you. I've always been a dancer at heart. My true love is choreography. And I find that I bring how I am as a choreographer into my work as a lawyer. There are many moving parts, especially if you're in a negotiation or if you're dealing with a lot of different people who want to come together to do something. So you need to make sure that everybody understands their role. Everybody's able to shine. At that moment, you see who has what strengths, and that's something really exciting to watch them shine. How to succeed in understanding what choreography is. I really like to get in and understand my clients' businesses and really listen. What do they want? And just as importantly, what don't they want? I like to teach my clients, like I did with my dancers, no is a complete sentence. If it's something you don't think you can do or it's dangerous, no. And we move on and we do something different. And you want to make sure you have the right music, you have the right rhythm, everything works together. As always with anything, it's muscle memory, it's practice, it's doing it over and over again. That's what makes me love what I do, because I've been doing it for so long and yet I'm learning new things every day. But I have real confidence in the ability to help my clients because I've seen pretty much everything. So I can anticipate what may happen and how to protect them and how to just let them soar, which is really exciting.
I like what you said, just say no. As women, we usually try to no, and then we give an explanation. Yep. But if you just say no, this is it's powerful. It's very powerful. Yeah. And also you can make a stand, right? So if you're in ballet, you stand up and you say no and be quiet.
Yeah. And I also do this with my clients. I do a lot of negotiation training with my clients, especially with women, because we've been raised to not let we fill the uncomfortable silences because we don't want the other party to be uncomfortable. But when you negotiate, sometimes in those silences is when you can really win something big. So the idea of sitting with your discomfort or saying no without an explanation and not having to apologize is a very powerful thing once you get over that discomfort. And again, that comes with practice. People are very unnerved often to do that, but it really gets things done.
And the no is so powerful.
Yeah, because very often, like a coach or a consultant will be asked to do something. And then, as I was talking before, like their scope creeps. So you agree on something and then the scope just keeps growing. Your client calls you at all hours, or there's always an emergency or something like that. And it's very important to set the parameters and to set, like I was saying, those guardrails and to really set expectations about relationships that are respected. And part of that is saying, no, I can't help you, or I may not be the right person for you at this point, but I know someone who is. And then you still keep the positive relationship, but that client's not right for you.
Powerful. What do you do when you don't work or don't dance? Is there anything else that you can fit into your busy life?
I actually am a real proponent, and granted, I work for myself, I'm a solopreneur, but I'm a real proponent of the work-life balance. So I start every day with a 4.5-mile hike with my dog and a good friend. I take time during the day to work out or read or do something where I step away from my work. And then when I come back in, I'm energized, I'm engaged. I take walks in the woods so my thoughts convalesce and really come through rather than just working straight through. I try to limit my screen time and really go deeply into good books. I love paper. So I love to get into good stories. I love to knit. I love music. I don't know, pretty much. I do love being a lawyer. I don't want you to think that it's just,
No.
I really, really love being a lawyer. And my clients are so creative and making the world a better place. And that is definitely excellent. But I love friends and family, just kind of just taking, making the most out of every day.
Yeah. And when I asked that question, what do you do? Not dancing, not working. We need to have that balance. And because otherwise, if we just work, then you're a normal person, a boring person, and you don't have anything else to share.
Brain working. You only have one part of it working. So part of it is just dormant.
Do you have any books that you recommend?
Oh my goodness. So many. I have all of my bookshelves in front of me and it's like all of my favorite books are there. So I'm looking at old friends. I recently revisited Time and Again, which is an excellent old book about the Dakota in New York City and time travel and the history of New York City. I love history.
What a cool conversation. What are you taking away? How is your website? How is your master agreement? How are your contracts? Now is the time to look them up and to talk to Elissa. Thank you so much for all your wisdom. Take It From the Ironwoman. We have episodes every Monday, and Take It From the Ironwoman is also the book Global Business Coaching with Sports Parallels. Download it or get it in your local bookstore.